Thank you, and thanks very much for that introduction. I should say, yes, I am English, although I've been living for the past 13 years in Madrid, Spain. So, for me it's great to come here, to come north and see that it also snows here in Oslo. It's now snowing, which is nice, because when I left Madrid yesterday morning it was snowing there as well. So I see we have more or less the same climate these days. Just on the language side, I think it's funny you thought I was American, because I was with one of my colleagues who's actually Polish in the US. It was a couple of months ago. We were at an event and we were sitting in a car chatting. And he said to me, "Alan," very serious, he said, "Alan, tell me, how is it your English is so good?" And I said, "Well, very simple. I happen to be born in England." It was no better than that. But I have to say, since I've been living in Madrid, I have found my English has started to get progressively worse, and my Spanish, which kind of reached a certain level about 5 years ago, is now leveled off and isn't getting any better. So sometimes I find myself linguistically challenged either in English or in Spanish. But very pleased to be with you here today to talk about multi-channel payments. You probably know Verifone much more through the brand Point. Point has been for many years present in the Nordic market. It became part of the Verifone group 2 years ago. So we're very proud to be present here through the Point subsidiary group. And certainly speaking to Paul Andre, I understand we're starting to get a lot of traction for our sort of full managed service multi-channel offer for a lot of major retailers in the Norwegian market. So anyway, you probably don't have to bother too much about this gentleman here, Mario Draghi. Probably doesn't affect your life too much, but I have to say in Madrid, in Spain, we virtually hang on every word of the great Mario Draghi, who pretty much saved us from financial collapse and possible economic collapse in September of 2012. Was it 2012? Yeah, 2012. And since then, things have started to get a little bit better, although you probably read horror stories about the level of unemployment in Spain and the fact that the economy is in free fall. Well, actually, the good news is things are starting to get a bit better. And even at the end of last year, the Spanish economy started to grow a little bit. But anyway, the point of showing this is that I come very much from a sort of payments focus. I've been in the payments industry for a number of years. So the other thing that Mario Draghi comes out with is statistics on payments in the European Union. So for me, it's always very nice to see this little green line here, which actually represents card payments. So we as a company provide a lot of card payment solutions. So it's great to see that there's a very strong underlying growth trend for electronic payments as we start to pay increasingly more, not with paper, not with checks, but with cards. Norway is probably one of the most advanced markets in terms of card payments, but I just wanted to look at another one here, which is one I have perhaps a greater knowledge of, which is the UK. And the point here is really just to try and say that what we see from a card payments perspective is that the world is becoming increasingly multi-channel. And multi-channel typically in the sense of what's been sold or the number of transactions or total transaction value through e-commerce versus total transaction value at the point of sale. So here you can see that the traditional face-to-face transactions in the UK growing very strongly. So 2011, this was the last year I could find data, growth was still going at 11% per year. And increasingly here you can see a strong growth for customer not present. So what do we mean by customer not present? A little bit more on that later. But another thing to say here is this picture, if you look at it last year, continues to evolve. So let's take a figure, December last year with the Christmas sales. Year on year, you actually saw a slight decline in sales in the UK. So it's about 2% decline in the face-to-face world. Online, there was a 7% year-on-year increase. So clearly for retailers, the message is you need to be in e-commerce as well as face-to-face because your customers are using both channels. So just to explain that customer not present, obviously a big chunk of that is internet. And clearly we as consumers now use the internet much more either for searching or for actually going through transactions. But for me, it's interesting to note that there's still a big chunk here which is just telephone order. Does anyone here do telephone ordering for goods today? I find it hard to believe that, okay, thank you, one person in an absolutely packed room. But I find it hard to believe that so many people are still doing basic telephone order. But I think what this does show is that we're used to working in different channels, either face-to-face or a variety of customer not present channels as well. So really what we know about the consumer is fundamentally they're connected, and clearly the smartphone has been one of the biggest bridging technologies. So if you look at some of the figures today, for example, 67% of transactions start through a smartphone. They may not be completed on the smartphone, but at least 67% of the initial searching, buying, browsing process is done using a smartphone. There's another phenomenon which I find is very interesting, probably not so much fun for retailers, which is called showrooming. So this is people who come to your store, they're looking at what you've got there, and at the same time, they're looking on their mobile phone to see where they can get it more cheaply. So to me, that for a retailer is close to a disaster, because it ends in someone coming into the store, having a look, and then walking out again. So for retailers, one of the big challenges is how to convert the people who come into the store into a purchase. And clearly being able to offer a mix of online in the store as well as purchase directly in the store perhaps can help to avoid walkers. The other thing is a lot of people today, apparently it's 1 in 3, will go into the store and rather than asking a store assistant when they have a question, they'll just pick up their smartphone again. So we can see that the smartphone has really started to change the way a lot of people shop. And again, it's not for everyone. And here for me, this is the interesting thing, that we do see a lot of segmentation, obviously in consumer behavior, and probably also segmentation in terms of which types of stores are affected in different ways by the more connected consumer. I think the other phenomenon about this is that the world of retail in multi-channel is much more complex. Clearly, as a retailer, you have to be allowing for what's going on in your offline world. And even in the offline world, if you go in a supermarket today, how many options do you have? You can pay an attended checkout. You can pay at an unattended checkout. You can take your own scanner, go around the store, and then pay, basically verifying what you've stored up in your scanner. So that's just in the face-to-face world. Then on the online world, many retailers have to have not only offline stores, also their online stores. They have to manage them as distinct businesses in many cases. But I think what we can all see is that in the future, those two worlds will start to merge. And again, it's the smartphone which is providing that bridging technology between the offline world, where we do things face-to-face, and the online world, where we're doing things either with smartphones or with tablets. And again, another fact to me is that is quite interesting is that a lot of if you look at the actual purchase process, a lot of it starts with a smartphone, but because you have so many problems trying to do a transaction on a smartphone, I think it's around 50% are actually aborted because it's too complex. People are then switching to their tablet to actually complete the purchase. So we can see very interesting consumer habits are starting to evolve based around the different technologies we have available to us. So clearly, whether it's online, whether it's using your tablet, whether it's using your smartphone, we are moving into a sort of omni-channel environment. Now, clearly for retailers, if we look more at the sort of the application or the security level, things are getting more complex as well. We're all used to using plastic cards. Those initially were with magnetic stripe, in some case with PIN. We've then switched them all over to chip. And now a lot of cards are being issued with contactless. So contactless technology is starting to roll out in many countries, and many big retailers, if you go to Intermarché in France or if you go to Marks & Spencer's in the UK, they're supporting contactless technology at the point of sale. Now that sounds very simple, but the reality is to implement that requires investment from the retailer. It can be actually quite complex, but I'd say from the customer perspective, it is a better user experience. I don't know if any of you have been through a UK airport recently, but when you buy something, just to be able to tap and then go, rather than to insert your card, maybe sign a piece of paper, maybe put in your PIN number, it is actually strangely convenient just to be able to tap with something and go. And clearly going beyond that, we're looking to a world where at some point you'll be able to pay with your smartphone. There are a lot of teething problems that we're encountering with that, with things like NFC, near-field communications, clearly hyped as the ideal bridging technology between your smart device and the fixed or face-to-face point of sale. But we are seeing there's a lot of issues in terms of getting payment applications onto smartphones. How are those being issued? Where are we putting the smart app? So it's quite a complex area. But clearly for retailers, a lot of potential complexity as they move into this world where either online or even face-to-face, they have to support all these new technologies to make the user experience much richer, much more appealing. So some of the things that retailers tell us is they want to have a bit of simplicity in all of this. There's a lot of change coming, but they want to try and make it as simple as possible. And certainly we come from a very strong payments focus. So what we're trying to do is give them a complete payment solution, not just individual components, which they then have to try and fix together to suit their specific store requirements. Additionally, the other thing we see is that we need to give them a future-proof solution. So when we provide a payment solution to a retailer, we need to allow for things like multi-channel. We need to allow for things like payment with mobile phone or payment with contactless cards. So really our job is to try and take the pain out of payments, because the payments world can actually be quite complex. And certainly as far as I've seen, it's been getting a lot more complex over the past 15 years. Because at the end of the day, what retailers want to do, certainly as far as I've understood, is really focus on their business, which is increasing the number of people coming into the store and then increasing the amount of money those people are spending once they're in the store. And then potentially it would be ideal if you could also help them to reduce some of their operating costs. So our focus is to try and make payments simple, to help them increase the amount they're selling, and also to try and reduce some of their operating costs. So this is one of the ways that we try and do that. It's called Payments as a Service. And the idea here is that we provide a fully managed service to retailers. It includes obviously cards, the ability to provide things like direct debit, to manage vouchers or coupon for loyalty, to be in the online world, to be in the face-to-face world, to support mobile phone payments or mobile phone commerce. And then with this solution, we're supporting a variety of different segments. Obviously a lot of it in retail, but also extending into things like services, in transport, etc., etc. And then at the back end, what we're providing is a link from a secure payment gateway to a variety of different acquirers. So for payment transactions, we're giving retailers the ability to choose who they're sending those transactions to. We work with a number of different acquirers to support them, to enable them to offer their services to retailers. Now, this is a solution which is started in the Nordic region. It's also now extended in France, in the UK. We're also extending it in markets like Australia and Latin America. So this concept of payments as a service is actually very strong. And really one of the big reasons for that is the fact that we have full security certification. We meet all the requirements of PCI DSS, and we actually take the cost of meeting the latest security requirements away from retailers. We're de-scoping them from a lot of the complex security work. The other benefit is we offer a platform which connects to any processor or bank acquirer that you want. So we offer a high degree of flexibility to retailers. And that's not only nationally, that's at an international level as well. So just looking at some of the details, the other degree of flexibility is the sort of form factor that we can provide. So with this solution, we can offer fixed devices, so for a very typical point of sale, a fixed payment device, portable devices that you can take around the store, or even mobile devices, which I'll talk about a little bit later, where you actually connect or we add a payments module to a smart device, be it an iPod, an iPhone, or a tablet. The other important part of the equation is obviously customer not present. So we're managing payments, be they from the face-to-face world or be they from the online world, in exactly the same way. We're managing those transaction flows, and very important, we provide a lot of information and data to retailers in terms of the transactions they're managing, where those cards were from, what was the spend per card. So that's very useful data, which if used in the right way, can provide a lot of benefits for a retailer. So a lot of the advantages here in this sort of payments as a service model is that you don't have to invest in technology which then needs to be stripped out, let's say 2 or 3 years later, because the requirements or because the standards or because of the security levels have changed. So for retailers, the ability or one of the key strengths is that you pay on a monthly basis for this. So this is really a monthly service. You have the point of sale, you have connection to the gateway, and you're charged on a regular monthly basis. No unexpected expenditure, no costly accreditation fees. It's easy to integrate, and it's really easy to get up and started. So the other area I wanted to address is really looking at mobile. And you know, I talked before about smartphones as being a bridging technology. Seen from the other side, on the point of interaction with customers, we see use of smart devices as providing a very interesting extension to our business. There's been a lot of focus recently on schemes like iZettle, which enable banks to provide really cost-effective solutions for very small retailers. Here we're working, for example, in Sweden. We're in pilot with a number of different banks providing that sort of solution. But perhaps more interesting is the enterprise level. So this is where we're providing retailers with a payment solution connected up to a smart device. And the interesting thing about that smart device is we can use it for running a lot of other applications. So we have a business unit within our group called Global Bay, which is specialized in providing applications for the smart device, for the tablet, for the iPod or the smartphone. That manages obviously the sale process, but goes a lot further than that. It takes you into inventory management, it takes you into customer relationship management. And here we have the idea of clienteling, where sales assistants can basically build up a small database on their customers. They can send mails to their customers. They can track expenditure of specific customers when they come into the store. So just 2 very quick case studies here where we've implemented this global-based solution. One of them is C Wonder in the US. C Wonder is a very radically different sort of fashion store. They wanted to recreate their store concept. They got rid of all the fixed points of sale, and they basically said, we want staff to be able to sell to customers anywhere. So what we provided them with is a solution where the cash register is effectively contained in an iPod. That connects up to a browser, which then connects up with all the back-end systems. So this enables staff to take the sale directly to the customer to provide a much more interactive experience. The other case is PacSun. So this is a Californian fashion chain. And really the challenge they had is that they have a strong business online, they have a strong business face-to-face, but they want to get the benefits of both. So what they wanted to do was provide a solution, typically using an iPad, which enables staff to provide goods or provide sale direct to customers face-to-face, but also where they didn't have the goods in the store, to avoid people walking out, they were able to take them online. So this device enables you to connect up directly to the website to provide goods which aren't in the store, to have them delivered directly to customers. Now the other benefit of that is enables staff using this online package to get familiar with goods as they come in and even before they come in. So it's a benefit not only in terms of the customer experience, but also in terms of training staff to perform to the best of their abilities. So really, the whole benefits from our side is that we're trying to provide package services that make life easier for retailers. We're trying to take the pain out of payments. We're ensuring security, but we're making sure that security doesn't become a drain on your business. Ultimately, what we want to do is take the pain out of payments to enable our customers to focus on their business objectives. So the goal in a world where we see increasing complexity, and certainly with multi-channel things have a tendency to get much more complicated, is to try and provide a bit more simplicity. Thank you very much.